Welcome, everybody, to Feedback Friday. This is the session that we normally do every Friday, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. The goal here is to take a look at your portfolios, resumes, invite you up onto the stage to talk more about you, learn more about you, understand your goals and the context behind you, so that when we review your portfolio and resume, we know how to target your particular goals and career goals. Couple of notables for you. We are currently live streaming on YouTube. I can add the link to the chat, but the other thing you should be aware of is that if you decide to share anything today, it is publicized and recorded to the greater world. So if you have a resume, for example, with a phone number that you want us to take a look at, happy to do so, though you may want to remove the phone number before sharing it with us. Beside that, I don't think I've got anything else. Tim, anything I'm forgetting about?
Anything else? No, guys, we're ready. I do that. What?
The intro felt quick today. I feel like I'm missing something, but I don't think so.
Yeah. I'll offer my customary thing where I say that thing about roasts. I know there's like this big thing out there called a design roast, right? A portfolio roast. You go in, you have these people look at you and they're grumpy senior devs and they like roast you and then they laugh at you. And that's supposed to be like a really helpful mechanic for you. My opinion on that is we want to collaborate with you. We want to be friendly with you. We want to help you feel loved, and we're here to love you. And so in a friendly designer mentorship way. And so we don't do roasting. We will offer you feedback, but if there's ever a point where you're like, the feedback is too strong or that feedback's not helpful, or this isn't what I actually want to talk about, you should let us know and we'll switch directions with you. Because we're doing this for you, not for us, and not for like publicity stunts. And, you should feel like you've come here and you've learned something valuable or at least useful for yourself. And that's the goal.
Hey, news in the chat, Tim. Looks like Mia got an FTE product design role.
No way. Mia. I remember Mia's portfolio. Is it here? Mia. Oh, it's not found anymore.
Not there anymore.
She took it down, I think, or moved it. Maybe she moved it. That's great news, guys. I'm so happy for you, Mia. Congratulations. We can celebrate. I don't have a confetti. I should make a confetti site. I'll make a note to myself. Make a confetti site.
Writing that down in the design shape notes, confetti gun.
Yeah, so I can celebrate. I have a confetti on my desktop. This is one of my keyboards. I have a bunch of keyboards. I'm in Sith mode today. Everything's on red. But this button right here, I press this button. It's very loud, but it makes confetti cannons and a cheering noise play. And I love it. And so does my 3-year-old daughter. But it doesn't share when I'm doing Discord. Okay, anyways. Very cool. Yeah, Mia added a custom domain. Congratulations, Mia. So I think we're past the intro now. We're now into...
Yeah, we got to hop in here. Well, first on the list, li0ness. We took a look at their site last time, I believe.
Let's get into it. li0ness. Okay. Hey, I remember looking at this. Yes, we talked about this. li0ness had a very good website. And let's go ahead and invite you onto stage.
Hey, guys.
Hey, good morning. Well, afternoon. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Good morning. Good to hear from you.
So can you remind us a little bit about who you are, what your story is, and then tell us what kind of goals you want to accomplish today?
Yes. So last week we talked about just portfolio and making H1s match the story that you're talking about. And it got me thinking, like, is everything needing to be redone? So then I'm coming from the point of view that being a senior product designer specialized in enterprise systems is the way for me. So thankfully we have Claude, and I worked with Claude to kind of brutally move through my assets, and there was a lot of stuff that was counterproductive to that goal. So now I'm doing a sift through my work, and this is my new bio, and my new resume is in the link right there.
Love it. I
Nice.
love a good. I struggle with this. I don't know how to get the aesthetic for big buttons. Like, I love a big button when I see them, and I just have a hard time designing big buttons. So I wanted to appreciate and just say I appreciate that you have big buttons. Your big buttons look great, and I don't know how to make big buttons very well. I just really struggle with them. Big buttons are great, guys. Like, there's nothing to dislike about having a large playful button right on your page. But sometimes it's not the right mood, the vibe, right? Sometimes you need like those small, super corporate ones. But I think the aesthetic fits here. So today, would you like us to? You sent us to your about page. Do you want us to start with your about page and maybe talk about some of the content you have here, or do you want us to focus on your resume more? Can you tell? Okay, give us a direction.
Yeah, so if we could focus on the resume more, that'd be great. But I'm curious, like, if the gut check is consistent across the bio and the resume. Like, hopefully it's telling the same story. So whatever is allotted in the time slot would be great.
As someone who uses
Take a
Claude,
look at the about page first. It looks like the resume itself is locked behind some permissions. If you want to take care of that while we take a look at the about page.
Yes.
I'll just request access for us. As someone who uses Claude quite a bit, I recognize some of the Claude like directional patterns. If that makes sense. Like, I can see the structure that Claude puts in here. That's not always a bad thing, but just so you know, have you run this through like an AI checker at all?
No. So I was thinking that would be a good thing.
That's probably a good thing to do. Let's just do it real quick.
What is the AI checker that you use?
AI. Honestly, they're all pretty bad and pretty good at the same time. I use Scriber AI detector here, which I can copy and put in the chat. It's fine, right? Like all things, like, it's good and bad. It's gonna miss it. It's gonna. Okay, so we do see some of that structures a little bit. It's in there a little bit. We also have it's predictive, right? So, guys, the way all AI the way AI detectors work is they look for patterns that are likely to be AI. They're not definitive. They're not even 100% accurate. It's just like a likeliness thing. It's like a if you've ever looked at statistics, it's basically measuring a likeliness on a scale, on a curve. So, but I'd say, like, yeah, I can recognize some of this. I think, because I've seen similar structures when I collaborate, trying to think about how to write stuff. It may be worth just kind of going through here and maybe breaking up some of that structure. But overall, there's nothing in here that's like really bad, I guess. Is that the right thing to say? I don't know. What do you think, Nate? What are you finding here?
With the about page, I'm not finding. I think it's fine. I think she's describing her background effectively. Were you asking specifically in regard to AI?
No, more about like if there's anything in here that is exactly what you said. If there's anything that stands out as like a red flag. Not a red flag. I might position it slightly differently in the sense that the about page target audience is going to be dedicated to that of future peers. Carolyn, did we talked about the three audiences last time? The recruiter, hiring manager, future peers. Did we talk about those?
Not too in depth.
Yeah. Let me branch over it real fast then. Branch over it? Is that a phrase? Your target audience typically consists of three personas for that of a product design portfolio. Audience number one is going to be your recruiters. These are folk like trying to match job descriptions to that of resumes and that sort. They don't have a deep understanding of what you do. Then there's the hiring manager. They super care about the process, how you solve problems, how you narrow down business goals. They're mostly interested in your case study. And then we've got the future peers. And these are folks where the story is the hiring manager will narrow down the top 20 candidates or so. And then they'll say, hey, peers of mine, here are the resumes I've collected. Who should I interview? Who should I take a look at first? And that's a fairly common story among hiring. So now we're targeting those people. And those people care much more about just who you are as an individual. Like if I share a cubicle wall with you for 8 hours? Are you going to make my life miserable? Or are you going to be fun to like work with and hang out? Am I excited to wake up in the morning to work with Carolyn? So that's the core target audience we're trying to solve with the About Me. And with that audience, we want to gear more toward personality, like just who you are as an individual. Are you fun? If you are going on a first date, this is like the stuff you would talk about here. So it's your dating profile, to use a metaphor there. I think you're doing great in regard to like the professionalism of presenting yourself as a potential candidate. And there's opportunity in regard to just who you are as a personality. You've got photos in the bottom. Photos are great. If you want to include those higher up or tell more of a story about who you are as an individual, that'd be great too.
Noted.
One thing I'm kind of finding though is that this About Me page kind of feels a little bit more like a LinkedIn bio. Like this feels a little bit more professional than maybe I was looking for on an About Me page. I think like about me is like kind of about like your personality, maybe like some things about you, if there's any quirks. And this feels a lot more like about my work, or about like my working style versus about me, about you. So that would be one piece of feedback. But I know you said you wanted to focus on the resume today. Should we switch over?
Before you click on that, Carolyn, we do have a phone number in your resume. Is that okay for us to stream live to the world?
I think so. I mean, my resume's been online for a while.
Yeah, mine is as well.
Feel the vibes. Okay, let's take a look then.
I was approaching the process of getting the resume towards kind of as much of a match from my past and then where I'm going, and then using that as the grounding so I can reconfigure the rest of my stuff.
This is very good. You are doing all kinds of things correctly here on your resume. Let me ask you, the resume is in a professional enough state that I'm curious if there's something specific you want us to look at, or if you're really just looking for a general overview.
Just a general overview. If there's any red flags or questions that come up, because there's so many different decisions, that I'm just trying to get a general gut check if it matches the types of roles I'm looking at.
Tim, quick gut check. Do you see a single red flag on here?
No, this is definitely one of the more polished ones we've seen. So we're even seeing like the only thing we sometimes recommend people is don't use a summary, because a summary takes up more space than what it's usually worth. But your summary is concise. It does look like it's adding a little bit of additional value here for someone who's reading it. And then your bullet points are you still have a good amount of work experience listed here. Maybe expanding into 2 pages would be worth it for you, just because some of these look like you have a lot of room to talk about more of this, where you could get into greater detail. And maybe the font choice that you have for your work experience and your name here could be changed to be a little bit more professional. And those are all just like just things that you could do, not necessarily like strong opinions on.
I had the exact same thoughts, and I'm nitpicking here. Like the header font, I think could be bolder. Its current goal of directing people to categories, I think, is lackluster. But like, we're talking about typefaces now. This is not a paramount thing that your resume is lacking, right? Tim also talked about the personal description at the top. We normally argue against them. As I've talked with hiring managers and recruiters, for the most part, they will argue personal descriptions are I don't want to say a waste of time, but a distraction to that of more genuine content. However, you've done something different here where your personal description is objective in nature. It's very specifically talking about your target audience and professional wins as a career candidate, and not subjectivity as in like, these are the things you like to do, and you're very good at these things. Like, these are just things that you have experience in and are just factorial, qualitative things about you. So normally we argue against personal descriptions. If you find that it's not converting and you find that it's a distraction to the rest of the stuff, feel free to remove it. But what you have here is following the theory of personal description. So you're doing fine. Beyond that, I don't think I've got anything else for you. Your bullets are following a what, how, why approach. Sometimes you're missing the how, but like overall, they're great. If we haven't, Carolyn, did we talk about anything about resumes last time?
No, we did not. I was wondering like how much I was trying to add factual pieces, but also enough context where it's like, oh, interesting, but we don't have to get into all of it because, but in terms of resume structure, we have not talked about that yet.
Cool. Yeah, one of the things Tim and I talk about frequently when it comes to resumes is the formatting in which folks write bullets. And I will typically argue that if you follow a what, how, why approach, really hard to write a bad bullet. And we're seeing this perfectly personified. So let's look at bullet point number 1. Led foundational user management redesign. That's what you did. Creating scalable RBAC framework is probably how you achieved it. Piloted with 11 enterprise clients and supporting a 100K expansion contract. That's the why you did it. Perfect semantical structure there. And if we look at the rest of the resume, the rest of bullets, it looks like most of these follow that same formatting. Now, if we wanted to fine tune some of this formatting, there's an argument to flip the order of information. So rather than a what, how, why approach, we would instead go for a why, how, what approach. The argument we're making there is that no company is going to hire you because you led foundational user management redesigns. That's kind of just what product design is. But they will totally hire you for piloting 11 enterprise clients and supporting 100K expansion. So if you wanted to reorder the information, you could say something like piloted 11 enterprise clients and support a 100K expansion contract by creating a scale RBAC framework that led foundational user management redesign. You just swap the order of information. Now you're leading all your bullets with the value to that of the company. It makes skimming it a little bit more effective and also just prioritizes your value more quickly. But again, we're diving into like deep stuff. There are no red flags on this resume, and that is like a fine tune you could do, but certainly not disqualifying by any means.
Are there certain things you feel kind of weird about on your resume? Like, is there anything you're looking for a specific validation on that we can weigh in?
No, I appreciate the fine tuning because at least like I went through many of the different steps of stats and how do you make it supportive and clear. I'm just kind of getting a gut check because this is the first time it's seeing eyes besides mine.
No, this is essentially the template version of what we would recommend. So for us, this is great. Now, if you would let us know how well it does for you, give us some data on it. Let us know how that goes. I'd be curious.
Oh, wait,
I
one more question. Sorry. I was trying to format my sabbatical in a way that isn't alarming. The story there is like it is an intentional pause for me to kind of recalibrate my life. But I did explore a bunch of stuff during, so I wanted to make it connected but not distracting. And I'm curious what your thoughts are on that.
I was just about to bring up the sabbatical, Tim. That's like the only. So typically resumes. One of the best advices I've gotten in regard to modifying resumes from an HR, a head of HR, he was describing that resumes should describe and explain the things that feel like they need explaining. So in your case, you have a year sabbatical here that feels like something that needs explaining. If you were to leave it off the resume, somebody would wonder like why you've got a year gap there, right? So I think you're doing the correct thing by noting it and then attempting to explain it. And then B, I don't think what you have here is concerning at all. I think that's a perfectly professional and representable way to describe your year sabbatical. Tim, any conflicts or arguments with that?
No, I did see someone in the chat said you should fill it with freelance work, and I disagree with that. I I think that instead owning a sabbatical as a sabbatical is a great choice and shows maturity in your career. I also think it's pretty smart to put your senior product designer here at the top rather than sabbatical, even though the years don't line up. This is how I would also format that. So I don't have any real feedback. I do maybe think that this second bullet point here, founded a business. Sorry, I thought it said attended a business event. So I think that this is like, honestly, this is a really good way to lean into it. You might want to talk more about like this business here, and like what you did here, if you have room for it. But I'm trusting that you're just right on target with this. So
Yes, the freelance thing is really interesting. I was considering sharing freelance things, but then I realized it kind of goes against the enterprise designer story, because it looks like you're kind of building small little projects, which I do have, but it's not where I'm going. So that was a choice to leave it out. But I really appreciate all the feedback.
Yeah. Tim, in regard to feedback, I don't think I have any more value I could possibly add to this. I think it's great.
yeah, I think it's pretty good. I think there's an argument you could make for 2 pages instead of 1 page, since you have a number of good experiences here, but you're owning the 1 pager pretty effectively. So, no real feedback. So I think it's time for us to move forward.
Carolyn, well done on your resume. Well done on your portfolio. I think you've got all the assets needed to enter the career market with confidence. A quick gut check from the audience there. Somebody had mentioned there was a concern about your custom typography headers and ATSs. I just checked it through Resi. Resi recognized the headers and reads them perfectly fine. Not to say that all the ATSs would, but it's a solid check in the correct direction. So it feels like it's going to be fine.
What is Resi?
Resi is it's a resume creation tool. It utilizes AI and it argues with you on how to better the experience of your resume. I'll put a link here in the chat. The only reason I talk and recommend it is because there is using a Reddit post that I had found, there's a way for you to get a free pro account. So it enables us in the chat with those with low budgets to like get some genuine feedback on their stuff. That said, a lot of competitors out there, they're kind of all the same as I've experienced so far. This just happens to be a free flavor.
Sounds good. Thank you so much for your help.
Yeah, appreciate the time. Tim, next on the list, we've got Ganesh M K. They're out there somewhere. Ganesh, if you've got a hand available, stick your hand up so Tim can find you.
Hi, guys.
Hello. We can't hear you yet if you've said something.
Am I audible?
Ganesh,
I did hear something.
Like you are awfully far from your mic. Are you able to scoot it forward or?
Am I audible?
Ooh, we can hear you. It's real jumbly. It sounds like it's underneath a stack of papers.
Oh,
Ganesh, if it works for you.
Wait, let's see. Can you tell us, give us like a paragraph?
sorry. Could you repeat again?
Okay, I can hear him okay.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Let's give it a shot. Ganesh, tell us a little bit about yourself and what your goals are for this call.
I mean, like, I just want to get a review of the portfolio, of the design portfolio.
Sounds great.
Which we do. Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about, first of all, how should we say your name? Then tell us about maybe where you are in your career, such as if you're looking for internships, junior, mid-level, senior, maybe even principal level if you're up there. If you could tell us if you know who you'd like to work for, like large scale enterprise, maybe small, medium businesses, maybe a startup. And then if we could do one thing for you today, such as looking at a case study or looking at just your homepage, what would be the most useful thing for you?
Actually, I'm from India. I want kind of review, like anything that you can do. And I'm looking for something kind of internship and junior level. And I don't mind like which company I'm going to work. I'm like open to work in any company. Yep, that's it.
Cool. So I'm hearing a junior or internship level. So on the lower scale of the career journey, you're looking for any kind of enterprise, any sort of small medium business. The industry is not super important to you in general, and you're mostly looking to get into the market.
Yep.
Nate, well, actually, you didn't tell us how to say your name yet. How should we say your name?
Yep, you're pronouncing it correctly. Ganesh.
Ganesh. Okay. Nate, what do you think we can offer Ganesh today?
Well, let's see. If he's looking for a junior or an entry-level product design role, although I see UI, UX up there, I think the best value would probably be that of a case study.
Sounds good. I'll offer some really quick insight for our landing page, just so it's not completely untouched while Nate gets into a case study, and then I'll look at it as well. Landing on your webpage, it is pretty bare bones, but I do see you have some information over here in your metadata, including a little picture, fav icon of yourself. If you include a little picture or something on here that can help anchor your page and make you feel a little bit more like a real person, this landing page does feel pretty templatized or kind of like a template, especially because you are bouncing around some of your typography styling. We have a lot of typography styles right away, and we have a button style that maybe doesn't mesh super well here. So I think adding a picture will do a little bit to help you feel a little more real if you're having problems with people bouncing off your website quickly. And then we've also explored this in the past where the name of projects can sometimes benefit from having a little bit of a longer, more like outcome-based sort of naming scheme. So instead of naming it after like the name of the company, I don't know how to say this, but whatever bank this is, the name of this bank, instead of naming it something to the extent of like improving user retention or improving or reducing user error for the name of the brand can sometimes perform a little bit better. But let's actually get into the full thing. Let's take a look at it.
Yeah, I've been scanning this case study for a second. There are a couple of things that I think are notable to talk about. So first off, probably the most important thing here is that your case study is entirely imagery, which isn't a huge consequence in regard to the consumption of the thing. What potential have, of course, your classic SEO friction. Beyond that, I haven't tested it out, but it's likely the case that this is probably not mobile friendly. If we go down, the text probably gets far too small, I'd imagine.
Oh,
Yeah, it sure does. So it looks like the legibility of this case study is heavily dependent on the technology that one is using. So it looks like it's desktop only, tablet and below, it's probably getting to be too small. So a friction point for you there. That said, if your goal is targeting entry-level UX, UI, I think this case study is on par with your goals there. One of the things I'm quickly noting, well, let me pause there. Tim, how you feeling about all that so far?
I'm on the same page. I was looking at this, and you're going to run into a couple problems, which is you're losing the benefit of this page being searchable. Like if I search this page for user, well, I guess there is user research up here, but if I search the page for maybe like ideation, where I want to find the ideation, you might have an ideation section in here, and I just can't find it quickly. You're also going to lose the benefit of this being searchable SEO wise. It doesn't look like you have your SEO kind of set us up all the way yet. So maybe that's not like the biggest driver for you, but I do think that, just as Nate said, having images here is a shortcut to desktop experience, especially if you're migrating websites. I don't think it's going to be good enough for mobile traffic though, especially when tons of people are like 80 to 90% of the world's traffic on the internet is on mobile. Having your portfolio in a mobile format for recruiters or hiring managers who are on the fly, HR people who are at lunch talking about who they're going to hire, you need to be ready for a mobile experience if you want to get hired into these bigger kind of corporate schemes. There's also like problems with like the resolution, right? Where it's starting to look a little bit grainy. I'll go into my full size. This is my full screen size, and this is like, it is pretty grainy and pixelated now. And it's just really thrown in my face. The responsiveness is not here. So there's some concerns with just how that's set up. However, if we ignore the technical implementation aspect of it and just talk about the content, on a quick scan, I do see at least most of the things I'd be looking for. Kind of. We do see a process here, right? We've got the process of kind of, I mean, this is essentially a design process, right? Maybe slightly different words. Some of these graphics do feel a little bit like following maybe like a boot camp or like an online course style. And so I can't say like, I don't come here and I feel like you have a good grasp of like the super in-depth part of UX, but I can see that you at least know how to talk about some of this, and you have like a semblance of being able to have professional discourse about this. And if I was looking for an internship level or a true junior level role, you'd at least have the right keywords to be in a conversation with me about that. What about you, Nate? What do you think here for content wise?
I want to reiterate the imagery portion of this, because that is a friction point that I want to emphasize here. There are a couple of reasons for this. If you are an entry-level candidate, the absolute best possible method of getting into an organization for any level of candidacy really is referral-based. So you may think, well, recruiters are probably on desktops anyway. However, your local peers are likely not on desktop at all times. And those are the absolute best methods of getting a job in the industry. So we don't want to remove like the best possible chances by utilizing a desktop-only version of your case study. Then there's the second reason here is philosophical, as it's like the whole eating your own dog food philosophy here. You are advertising yourself as a UX UI designer with the ability to create products, yet your own portfolio product that you're showcasing is limited and constrained in scope. Therefore, it positions you back down toward that entry level. So there are some solid arguments for attempting to elevate this away from imagery and into a core designed portfolio. Tim also talked about something else. He talked about the structure of which you are currently building your case study is reminiscent to that of the entry-level linear flow of product design. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. The sacrifice there being it puts you in that camp of other novice-level entry users. Ideally, if your goal is to get an entry-level job, even though you're targeting entry-level, the market's heavily saturated at the moment, which means mid-level folk are also applying for entry-level jobs. So you kind of have to compete with a little bit higher level. Therefore, we have to elevate your process a little bit away from the entry-level candidacy and more toward strategy thinking. The largest thing that I'm noting here is that this particular case study feels very tactic oriented. It's very dedicated to outputs. Like, for example, if we scroll back up to the top where you're the very first screenshot of a cell phone, you're describing the project, and then you've got some content in regard to target and challenge. In my research, I quickly learned that internet banking and mobile banking currently available in stores or websites of corporate and private banks lack proper looks and feel. So you're describing that the aesthetic of this thing isn't up to speed with modern trends, and that could very well be. The hurdle with this rhetoric is that it's very output oriented. You are creating UIs, you're positioning yourself as a UI designer, as opposed to positioning yourself as a person that tries to solve problems. At this stage, we don't even know if the UI is a problem. You're just now positioning yourself to like build outputs for the sake of outputs because they're not modern just yet. In the future, if you wanted to, or if you were able to modify this case study, I would love to see you prioritize outcomes. Here are the problems that we're needing solving. Here are some of the business arguments that we need to resolve in order to achieve these outcomes. Therefore, we need to do these things to hit those business achievements, to solve those user problems, to build those better outcomes. Outcomes being something like users have the ability to use their banking app. Users have the ability to transfer money from their checking account to their saving account quickly. Conversion rate of getting folk into our, the conversion rate of adding new members has increased. Like those sort of core target user problems and business problems. Ganesh, I threw a lot at you there. How are you feeling about all of that? Is all of that making sense?
Yep. Actually, it was like I didn't know there is something we can search with keywords. I didn't think of that. It was new to me. Like I just designed it in a Photoshop and placed it as image. So it is a shortcut. As Tim said, I did like placed in a like very quick time. We can it. I don't know coding much. And the adding the photo in the front page, as you said, it is like yep, like I can catch that the point you're mentioning, and also the project. I should work it while presenting. Yep, and there is another pages like about page. You can see my picture. Like, can you review that?
We can take a quick look at the About page. And look at the clock. We'll want to scoot off to the next one here shortly.
Hey, there you are. So, in summary, because we will have to keep moving forward. But in summary, what we're seeing is it looks like you have a lot of the content that would be targeting that junior level role that you were talking about. But that the implementation of that is probably not favoring you. It's making it harder for people to find information. Competition wise, it is a little too template like to stand out in saturated markets. Some of your target challenging positioning is more about features rather than the users, which you could rephrase as how might we's or as a user I want to, or you're empathizing with your users a little bit more clearly. And then there's also maybe a level of believability with this, right? Where you're taking on a full banking app when maybe sometimes it's better to go at scale to focus on like a specific feature within a banking app or something of that nature. However, at the same time, probably forgivable at the scale of entry level to junior level roles. We would love to, if you have time to come back next week, we can dive into your About page a little more. We can look at your homepage a little bit more. A minor passion of mine is helping people with their metadata on websites. So we can talk about like SEO, getting your description, canonical set up correctly, having H1s that work, all that kind of stuff, and maybe even some of your positioning here. But unfortunately, today we just don't have time to get into all that stuff.
Yeah.
Are you okay with that as a stopping place today?
Yeah. Yep. You can. We'll join the next Friday.
Exactly. Well, actually, announcement next Friday will be Nate's just put in the chat every single Friday, except he's a liar. Nate is a liar. It's not every Friday. Next Friday will be off because we'll be celebrating Thanksgiving or other just gratitude related holidays next Thursday, which means that Friday will probably be taking off. So not next Friday, but the Friday after that. The next time we meet, though, we would love to see you here.
Yep, and it's great meeting you. And many things I have learned from the review. Thank you for sharing, and you have sent recipe and many kind of links that are completely new to me.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll share a couple more links throughout the thing. Thanks for your time today. It's good to see you.
Thank
Ganesh,
you.
super appreciate the time. I think we threw a lot at you. I'm tossing a link to our YouTube channel there. That's today's recording. Feel free to go back and watch that, and you can hear all of our rhetoric
Yeah,
again
yeah.
at some point. Tim, looking at the list next, we got Nelly R. If you're out there, put your hand up in the air.
They won't
So we
need
can
to
find
because I
you.
just tagged him.
Nice.
Hello. Can you hear
Hello.
me? So hi everyone, my name is Nelly and I'm very excited about this. Like I think it's a very great rubric of like helping people getting jobs and just getting better, positioning ourselves. So I graduate in spring. I study graphic design, but I want to not enter, but get like a full-time job in product design. So I have experience of few years. So at the beginning, I had graphic and marketing design experience. And also lately in my last company where I worked for 2 years, it was data encryption company. I helped them to build their website and their management platform. So I thought that would be a great like first case, like feature case for my portfolio. So I put this portfolio really quick when hiring manager reached out to me and I didn't have anything. So it's kind of a starting point, and I'm mostly interested in like reviewing the case study because I don't know where to find that like gold I don't know, balance of enough of imagery and context and stuff and showing like the process itself. And yeah, I was browsing for many examples and I noticed that a lot of like, I don't know, B2B and big tech portfolios are very simple and clean and are focused on the case studies. So that's what I tried to do and just add a little bit of personality.
It's built in Framer, Nate. I just had to say it. So
Tim has been a longtime Framer fan. My current website is built in WordPress and has been for like 15 years. So don't at me because I am also aware that it's outdated. I'm currently in the midst of redesigning it in Framer as we speak.
Yeah, I had to learn Framer. I think that, but it's a nice tool.
that's exactly it. It's just a tool. It all depends on the person who uses it. Okay. So thank you for all of that stuff. Now, I may have missed this in my excitement. Are you looking to be hired right now? And if so, who is the type of person you're trying to get hired by?
So I'm not currently applying. Like I tried just for a couple companies, and I didn't really get a lot of response. But I got 2 opportunities like from startups just by networking. So I don't think my portfolio is like doing a good job. A resume is just connections. So I'm just trying to improve that. So I'm trying to be hired by probably like larger corporations. Because I'm in a Silicon Valley and they have a lot of offices here, and I know like the bar is high and competition is as well. But yeah, I'm really trying to position myself like for more B2B type of businesses.
Okay. Okay. Well, that's exciting. That's
Being in the
exciting.
Bay Area, that makes a lot of sense. Nelly, I've got a bizarre question for you here. You mentioned earlier that you just graduated in spring. Congratulations, by the way. What an achievement that is.
I'm graduating like next spring.
Graduating in
26.
spring.
Yep.
I see. So, congratulations withheld, but you're so close. So cool. Graphic design, you mentioned, I heard 2 things. You studying graphic design, but you're also targeting product design jobs. And there's a gamut of knowledge missing from those 2 things. Yet, I look at your portfolio and it's great. There are so many cool things going on here dedicated to product design. How did you make that leap from graphic design to product design? How did you do that leap?
I think it happened naturally. I just realized that I'm not a very creative person and I want more structure. And I think building systems is something I'm more interested in rather than creativity. So it happened that at my company, I just helped them with UI UX job. And yeah, I just thought that it's more like perspective career in terms of growth, and more companies need like product designers rather than graphic designers. That's just what I see. Yeah.
Very cool.
So, mhm.
Awesome. Well, Tim, I may have missed it. Was there a particular target we were wanting to look at? Case study, homepage, anything?
No, and honestly, I'm not sure where to start with this. Nelly, the perspective of landing on your page is not of someone who is graduating. The perspective of landing here is that you are already doing product design. And so I think you're already ahead of the game. I think this speaks probably volumes about like your personality and how dedicated you are about craft stuff. You have a very personal feeling about page. Maybe the content, some of it could be worded differently. Not sure. I haven't read it on depth. Don't take that as a full recommendation though. Just that your structure and layout's very good. Are these videos built with Jitter? Are these Jitter
Yeah.
videos? Okay. So I thought. So yeah. So and that's you're using motion very effectively. You might have some small gains to make with some of your titling, although I do think that because you're using motion, the titles are actually less important. It's like one of those things about motion. Motion just happens to do stuff like that. You already have reviews. Honestly, I'd say, where do you want us to spend our time today?
I would say more on the FutureX case, the first one. Second one is embarrassing. Like I built it like in one day. So yeah, I think the first case better shows my process. I really tried to put like everything I saw in like top portfolios, like collaboration and accent on my like thinking processes and visuals. So whatever you think is needs to be improved.
Oh boy. Oh boy. We're going from, so the resume that we looked at previously was already templatized, but Tim had a phrase. It's a template of what we recommend. Your case study here is pretty darn close to that as well. It's fantastic in all kinds of ways. Tim, I want to try an experiment here. One of the things Tim and I talk about heavily is that the verbiage of one's title tags needs to lean heavily into storytelling with the objective of, as somebody skims through your resume, they still understand and obtain that story, even if they only read your titles. You are doing a lot of that really well. Tim, if you don't mind going to your tool up there, your browser tool, and only looking at their title tags and seeing if we can read. Tim will yell at you by starting with an H4. Just brace for that. But check this out. Like as we look through your H1s and H2s, FutureX from legacy to scalability, redesigning a 40-year-old cybersecurity company for the modern enterprise buyer, key outcomes, what's stopping FutureX from scaling its influence. That's a great title. This, like, your titles are doing well. If we scroll down, now we've got like H1s that like zeros, number 1 through 5, opportunity there, brand system, website redesign, crypto hub platform, and KLD mobile UX. Like those titles are okay, but they could lean more into storytelling. So you've already got the right mindset. Now it's just like embracing storytelling a little bit more aggressively. And I say all this with the mentality that in regard to the quality of your case study, it's great. And now I'm looking at like, what's the next thing we could work on? And you've already done all the most important stuff. You're targeting the audiences correctly. You've got the housekeeping at the top. You're diving into storytelling already. We're looking for low-hanging fruit, and there isn't a whole lot of it.
Mm-hmm. Got it. Thank you.
I actually have some questions for you. Which is one, did you build this website yourself or is this a template from someone?
Like the case page?
Yeah.
Or,
yeah.
So I've used some template as a base, but I edited it heavily. I just wanted to have like nice, clean font and like overall structure, but I kind of customized it a lot, honestly.
Yeah, there's so sorry, I should rephrase that. There is zero things wrong with starting from a template or even ending with the template. Most of the web is actually built on templates. That's totally fine. There's nothing wrong with that. My question is for you is just when you use a template, sometimes there are systems that are in place that you don't fully understand, and so it becomes harder to manage or to edit, which I think is maybe what's happening with some of your heading, your SEO across your website is horrible. This is, but it's okay. Like as friends, we're talking as friends, right? So like, there's definitely some gaps in how the headings are managed across your website. And I suspect that there's probably some other opportunities here for alt text, etc. There's probably just a couple things going on. Yes, we declare our friends. Well, just being friendly. So like, my concern would be how comfortable you will be now taking this that you've edited and being able to own it fully by fixing some of the problems that are with the headers and making sure that your data structure is correct. Also, in some places you have the emojis. I'm going to call out these emojis and say they immediately diminish the professionalism of your website. Without the emojis, it has a very nice minimal feel, feels very clean. It's very cut. And then these emojis kind of really take down the vibe a little bit and make it feel a little bit more junior, or even introduce a suspicion of like, oh, did AI write this? Because emojis are apparently, even though a very human typeface, are now owned by AI, which is like bizarre and horrible in its own way, but is nonetheless somewhat true.
What's up with that? Why is AI consuming emojis so aggressively?
Or even outputting them so aggressively. It's just a thing. I have a concern about some of these images. These images might show or like might represent some value, and they're not. Framer is really bad about its image rendering. So it's going to be hard for you to see these images, or for us to see images and consume them. So as long as this image data is rendered in text form or somewhere else, so you're not relying on me to look at this image and be like, oh yes, I can now see that Nelly is in fact a very good product designer because the data in this image is something I can consume, when it's actually quite difficult to consume at this level. Same thing here. I'm actually wondering, Nate, if this is an example of a case study that's a little too long.
Is there such a thing?
Depending on the role you're trying to get into, Nelly is trying to do product design versus UX design.
By the way, does Framer have lightboxing capabilities built in?
I don't know what you mean by lightboxing. So,
oh boy, it might be an older WordPress term, but maybe not. The ability to click on an image and it opens in a larger modal with a darkened background.
It appears not.
But like Framer doesn't have that capability built in. Folks in the chat, for the Framer folks out there, let me know if they do have Lightbox according to Scientology.
Okay. I don't know how to enable Lightbox. That's something maybe I'll spend my after hours figuring out Lightbox.
I got to learn how to do it too, Scientology, because I'm going through Framer learning myself right now. In regard to length of the case study, so the largest section, I think, as I'm going through here, and I think the largest section by far is the design process section, which, if the goal is product design, absolutely the correct section to be large. I have a hard time being persuaded that a case study is too long. I think it's fine, Tim. What are you thinking in regard to the length? Do you think it's a distraction?
Yeah, let me reorganize my thoughts so it's a little more helpful. We get into this case study. It is very clean looking. It's very nice. We have good information up front. We have lots of motions. We have basically a very, very compelling hook, right? This is the hook. This is the jolt. I talk about stories in triple J's. We got our 3 J's. Okay. J's are cool. We've got our jolt, which is basically how you hook someone, how you tell someone something's important. You should look at this. This is like the visuals. This is the aesthetic. You have a journey. A journey is how you communicate something's happening. It's like kind of the quintessential part of your storytelling, right? So we have our jolt up here. We have our journey, redesigning something for the modern enterprise buyer, right? This is our journey. We have a great journey. And then getting into the jolt. The jolt is like the jackpot, basically why you should get into something. And we have this key outcome section here that's talking about this. And so this is promising us that if we go through the rest of this journey now, we will be rewarded by seeing these key outcomes. This is the jolt journey jackpot, right? I might just be nitpicking a little bit, but I do feel like when I get into this, it just kind of keeps going. It's a very long case study. And I feel like I'm getting disconnected from the impact that you made because there is so much operational stuff being put on me. And because you're trying to put in, I don't know, 2 years worth of work, you've got a problem, right? Where this is like, you did genuinely a lot of operational work over the past 2 years. It might just be better though to separate that work into multiple case studies so you can talk about each individual outcome and some of the operational things per category rather than trying to say this has to represent my entire past 2 years of living and work and showing off every operational thing I did for this one person. Because like there's some great, like I get down here and like you could talk about a lot of these, right? This is a very, very small introduction to an image here. Or maybe it's actually an introduction image for this image. I'm not sure. But like, and this one doesn't even have any text associated with this image. So like lots of visuals here that kind of just end up being divorced or detached. They kind of live on their own. And I think that, you know, it's not doing enough work for you. Like you've spent work doing this and now it's not working for you. That's like the worst employee award of all time, right? Is this UI image here that should be doing something for you and it's just not doing much. And you also have things spread out into big phases, right? So these could each be different stories that you tell, different things that you did, but it's all condensed into here. And I think maybe, I could be out on a limb here, but I think maybe if you were to stretch this by separating them into different case studies or different portfolio projects, you could talk about each of these in a little more depth, show more maturity across each proponent of them, and still be able to talk about all the nitty gritty that you did attached to great outcomes, probably great outcomes, but not have the problem of me getting lost all the way down here somewhere where I realize I've been scrolling and I don't remember what I was looking for.
Nelly, this is where we're at with your case study. It's already good, and now we're trying to figure out, can it be better in some fashion? That's a great place to be. What a great problem to solve.
Yeah, thank you. That was my main concern, like the length of my use case, and if I should kind of break it into smaller parts. I didn't include a lot of stuff that I did. I just like picked something more related to product design. And as for emojis, I actually thought it would like increase readability. I mean, users would be able to scan headers quickly. But I guess, yeah, you need to adjust like when AI comes in and stuff. So I have a question for you. You mentioned that my SEO is horrible. And I know that I kind of messed with the template a bit. So do you have any advice how to understand it or adjust it? Like, where can I check that? Because Framer shows that my SEO is actually fine.
So like how to do SEO optimization. Yeah, that's something we can totally do. I think we might spend some after hours working on this because it tends to be something that takes a little more time. But the essential rule, what I would recommend doing is go to a website. This is going to be forever. This will be our quick thing. It's called SEO Yoast Checker. So Yoast/tool. I'll put this in the chat. If you go to this website, you can submit your website here. Let's just copy this. We'll do it for this page. And what will happen is it'll crawl your thing and it'll help you identify some opportunities. And it will also explain certain things. It'll help you understand what you need to do differently per those pages. Okay. SEO is short for search engine optimization. And so it's basically SEO describes the process by which the internet, which by the way, this is forgetting to the weeds of it now, but the internet, by the way, is not a place, except it is thousands of millions of places. The internet is just someone else's computer. every time you go on the internet, you're just traveling between people's computers. And SEO describes the process by which information is organized and indexed so people can find information from someone else's computer faster. And so this kind of dictates some of the rules and how things are discoverable. So, for example, having your name as a title is nice, but that's only if I'm looking specifically for you. And probably I'm looking for designers in your area, like designers in the South, in the Bay Area, or product designers who do a certain outcome. So that's one thing you could, improve your title by making more targeted for your local area. But with heading hierarchy specifically, there are rules. You have to think about headings as like Russian nesting dolls almost, or anything where you have sort of like a breadcrumb rule, right? So when you get to a page, your H1 tells a computer or tells the internet what the page is about, and there should only be one H1 per page, which we can validate that there's definitely more than one H1 across your pages, but it goes to H1 and then you go to H2, and there can be as many H2s as you want, but the H2 always comes after the H1. And then you can have as many H3s as you want, but an H3 always comes after an H2, and so on and so forth. So just kind of that general rule. Now, SEO can be, yes, portfolio review is going on. SEO is important, and I wouldn't downplay that, but I'm also not going to lie. It's probably not the most important thing for most designers, especially trying to get hired at a corporate level. Because if you look at your metrics for how you get to places, most people get to portfolios through LinkedIn or through people's resumes. So I don't think you should be, for example, trying to optimize your SEO. So if someone searches for product design, your portfolio case study is the very first search result. But it still helps a little bit with certain things. That's it. I think that was definitely more in the weeds than we should get. My recommendation for you, Nelly, is you have great content here. The template that you probably borrowed from had things set up, made transporting pretty nice. I'd say everyone should be using probably whatever template Nelly's using. It's a great starting place, if nothing else. And then your storytelling is working really well. You're probably just storytelling too many things at the same time. And that is weakening your storytelling because it ends up going longer than it could. Yep. It ends up going longer than it probably benefits the end user for. Make multiple case studies instead of putting 2 years into here. I'm going to stop.
The only other thing I have written down, Tim and Nelly, is that a little piece of low-hanging fruit, add your case studies to your navigation menu. The goal there being it's the primary, most important thing of your portfolio that folks are wanting to look at. Let's not hide it. Just add it in the nav so all recruiters and hiring managers can find it quickly.
Okay.
This is a fun effect here. Where did you get this effect from? Or is this like something you did?
I don't really remember. I think it was I don't remember.
See if we can find it.
It was some tool. I forgot how that was called. Something starting with S. It's like very popular tool. I just forgot the name. Or maybe I think it was more like a framer component, and I just copied it. Yeah, most likely it was that.
A Framer University component?
Yes. I think so.
It's cool. It is just text on the mobile version, so I spent a lot of time looking for it, and it's not. There it is. Okay. Very cool. Very cool. Well, very cool. Very cool. Thanks for spending your time with us today, Nelly. Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you so much. It was very valuable feedback. Looking forward to adjusting my resume portfolio.
Next on the list, we've got DFO. Already sent an invite out to them. Hello, DFO, welcome.
Hey guys, how are you?
We are doing so well. You're coming in a little quiet. If you're able to scoot that mic a little closer toward you.
No, you sound pretty clear.
How's this? Is this okay? Maybe I'll just
got you
talk
boosted.
louder.
Yeah, we can hear you fine. Appreciate you.
Okay, cool. So I guess I'll give a little bit of context about who I am and sort of what I'm looking for. So right now, my background is in graphic design. I graduated in 2022, like the summer of 22, and I went into like graphic design. It was hard to find jobs, so I was kind of just picking up whatever I could find. Eventually, I picked up the current role that I'm at, which is at an HR company, um, under the title of like graphic designer, but it turned into doing a lot of like UI UX and web design. Um, and yeah, so right now I'm looking to get into like the UI UX industry because I'm doing a lot of like solo work, and really I just want to like get somewhere where I can like learn a lot. The industries I'm interested in is tech and banking. Um, and yeah, that's about me.
Okay. Let's get into it then. Do you want us to spend time on your front page, like about page, maybe into a case study? Where can we help you the most today?
Probably a case study. I've spent a lot of time sort of deliberating. I think a lot of the stuff that you guys were going over today was stuff I considered and like heard back and forth things with designers I've talked to about. Like previously, I recently redesigned this portfolio. So like last year was like the last version of it. And the case studies are like super long and applying to places I didn't really hear that much from. So right now my case studies are very like result oriented and focusing on like the key outcomes because I was told like to focus more on those and then during like the interviews to talk more about like my process and stuff. Like I'm looking to get more into like junior design roles, so I think a lot more of the work would be a little bit UI focused. But yeah.
Okay. Okay. Let's look at this. Basics
I'm
first.
scrolling through the case study as we're talking, Tim.
Yeah. When you say you want to position yourself for a junior role, but you've already been working doing UX or UI work as a graphic designer, is there a
Yeah.
reason you're choosing to position for junior roles?
Well, maybe you guys could give me some insight because I've been doing it for like 3 years, but mostly through like freelance. Like I freelance with like an agency and also just like working with small businesses. So I just feel like the industry is at a point where a lot of the junior roles are asking for like people that have my experience levels. But also I don't know if I'm like suited for just like a mid-level position. I think my main thing is that I've lacked a lot of like I guess like mentorship. Like a lot of the things that I learned were just either through networking or through like stuff like this, like portfolio reviews and things like that, and not actually working under like senior designers.
Yeah, so this is a dilemma that I think a lot of people run into where they feel or perceive themselves to not have the formal education required to be a certain level. And to them and to everyone, I say stick it. That is the corporate secret. The big secret about corporate world is that no one really knows what they're doing. And so it's all just this stuff of like, right, you hire someone and they do whatever they're hired to do, plus a whole bunch of stuff that they're not hired to do, minus a whole bunch of stuff that they were hired to do, right? So you just like it's I know it's intimidating, and imposter syndrome really gets us, and especially
Yeah.
with the industry trying to basically redefine stuff and saying like, well, like we want people at a junior salary, so we're going to put a junior on this role, but you actually do need 5 years of experience to be our junior
Yeah.
designer, which is just ludicrous. And so, we have to balance that really carefully. Don't, without overly conforming to how people are trying to redefine the industry in general. But I'd also say like being a self-learner is not a bad thing. And, if you've never worked with a senior designer before, like also like not a bad thing either. I mean, there's definitely benefits to it. I'm not saying don't find mentorship. I'm not saying don't learn from people above you, but we take inspiration from everywhere. And we're learning constantly. Education is every single day, right? Every single hour, every single day is our education. And if you know how to do the thing and you know how to tell the story about doing the thing and you know how to get to a certain result, then you are someone who can do the thing, and you should own that and not downplay that. Especially someone who's been doing it for, you said 3 years now, right? 3 years plus doing freelancing work on the side. That does not sound like a junior level role, or at least not a low level junior. That would definitely be like a reaching into a mid level role.
Okay.
Hey, do you have an opinion on this before I go totally off the rails here?
I have a thought on this, but it requires challenge both from an effectiveness level as well as an ethical level. So, what's coming to mind here is it okay if I call you Daniel and not DFO? Yeah. Pleasure speaking with you, by the way. Appreciate you having the courage to come on here. I have one of my past design roles was at a bank. So when it comes to like the financial tech portion of this, you and I can talk the same language here. At that organization, they did not have a formal job title for that of product design. My role there was in the marketing department, advantages and disadvantages to that. But the role that they had available to hire me for was the political role title of, I think it was digital product analyst, was what I got hired under. There are some consequences to this. One is if you get a job at a company and their title is adjacent to what your job skills actually are and what you actually do there, folks start like perceiving you as the wrong title and they start attributing work to you for the wrong title. And that's a bummer. So on my LinkedIn, even though like I rebuilt their entire site, 500 pages, a 500-page website, rebuilt the entire thing. On my LinkedIn, I don't put digital product analyst. I put UX design, which is truthfully what I did there. Tim, how do you feel about that from an ethical standard, changing the job title on LinkedIn to better represent your role there, even though it's different from that of your formal title?
Guys, social media, including LinkedIn, which is social media, is consuming you and does not pretend to owe you anything. And it's also not a background check, and it's also not a legal document. LinkedIn is literally just where you advertise yourself in a social media way for certain roles. And you should tell the story about yourself for the role that you're trying to get. That's okay. I think you can change the names of jobs when you're being honest about it. Like, don't like if you worked at McDonald's, don't be like CEO of the fries because I was serving the fries at McDonald's. Right? That's Well, we're not going to get into that example specifically, but don't do anything that would essentially bring dishonor or shame to you. But also 100% shape and craft the story so it favors you, because that's how things work, right? You tell a story about yourself, and that story is persuasive. It's all storytelling.
Yeah.
There's another diatribe there and there about the job titles. We can tweak those a bit, but then also your identity as an individual has its own title. So like maybe I was UX designer at this company, but overall I'm a product designer. Feel free to put your your job identity on LinkedIn is something totally different as well.
Yeah.
Let's focus in. Tim, where were we on this portfolio? Were we wanting to look at the case study specifically?
That's actually a great point. I did not ask where we should start. Well, actually I did. Yeah, we're looking at the case study. That's what I did ask that.
I want to look at the case study. Yeah. Your site's great. The case study is the place to be. So you are doing a lot of stuff correctly here. I have thoughts already, Tim. Do you want to dive in first?
I can offer some execution insights. I want to hear what Nate has about strategy insights.
So when I'm looking at case studies, there are 3 sections I'm typically looking for. Section number 1 is what's the problem you're trying to solve? Section 2 is how did you solve that problem? And section 3 is how did you validate success that the problem was solved? When I say section, these aren't formal sections. Those are like the questions I'm looking to answer. So question number 1, what's the problem you're trying to solve? You have this. I just can't find it easily. So Tim, take a look, scroll up to the top, and you'll find a blurred image of a Zoom call. And, oh, I guess it's slightly down. That's the problem. Right above it, teens and young adults are so overwhelmed by the amount of information, blah, blah, blah. The hurdle with the imagery is, one, is your eyes drawn to the imagery, and then you scroll beneath the imagery, so they just miss the things above it. And two, it's blurred. So it's like, I was questioning, like, why is this blurred? And then I didn't look up anymore. So like that statement, that problem right above the image is the first thing I'm looking for. And I just missed it. If there was a way that we could like call that out in some fashion, whether it be we're putting it below the image or making it bigger or some sort of visual differentiation, because that's the very first thing I want to take a look at. The rest of the case study, I consume the rest of the case study with the understanding that that's the problem you're trying to solve. And without it, the rest of the case study is too abstract. So you've got it. It just needs some visual differentiation, which is great. Question number 2, how did you solve that problem? And I think you're doing fine here. You've got explorations 1, 2, and 3 right on case study theory of using 3 examples. And then the final section of how did you validate success? This is potentially the larger area of opportunity for you. However, you mentioned you're targeting junior level roles. I don't know that you should be, but if your goal is junior level, then the success validation at the end isn't as important. If you're targeting mid-level and above, would love to see the validation.
Okay.
I also think you should be targeting mid-level. Tim, how you feeling about that?
Yes, we had this long conversation. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Was I just reading the case study and missed it?
I mean, it also could have been that I was just speaking absolute gas, and it was good to be muted, maybe by Nate secretly.
I just tune you out now habitually.
I will say.
Well, I'm glad it goes both ways. So.
Sorry, for context, this particular project is a concept project, so that's why I don't have like the sort of like results or like outcomes. So like I do have that in other case studies, but for like I guess for this particular concept project, I didn't really have like ways to measure success at the end, other than like the user test that I did. But
Tim, we gotta do stuff.
I'm so sorry. That sentence was making perfect sense until you said, except for the user test at the end. You started with, I have no way to measure impact except for the testing the impact that I did at the end.
Okay.
Design. So this is something that's, I mean, every single week we talk about something along this lines of designers have a challenge where they say, yeah, this is just conceptual, therefore it's not real. And to all those people, I will repeat what I said earlier is like, just stick it. Like you did work here. It's real work you did. You did the thinking, you did the testing for it, especially you did user testing. You did the creation for this. You went through the flow for it. You spent time thinking about it. You put it up here. I mean, that sounds pretty real to me. I don't know what I'm looking at if it's not real.
Right.
And that doesn't mean you need to say up here, like, yes, I sold this to 5 million people or something like that, right?
Yeah.
But I think it is valid for you to say, like, yeah, this design that I did, all the stuff that I looked at has a value. And this value is anchored and, you know, against this certain audience or this certain market. And to frame it in a way that like communicates that value. I don't, you know, the conceptual or case study or design exploration is not necessarily valued only in one way, but you can also talk about like the potential value, the theoretical value, the projected value in insights. And so you should learn how to take this data and to say like, well, you know, I've predicted that this decision, you made a decision, right? You set out to do something. So you have a goal. And then you can look back and say like, well, compared to this goal, how well does this solution work? And measure it against that specific goal. And so you are trying to create an engaging interactive app that empowers seniors. So I guess this might be hard to measure against since this is a very like ambiguous behavior. But if you were to, you know, put this into things like, well, users, learning financial investing, right? So how well does your app teach financial literacy? How much do people use this app? What is the adoption of it? How does it get to market? And there are always ways to look at this and to compare it laterally across similar explorations, companies, things to look at the user testing that you did and to connect all that behavior to business impact and business scale. And that ends up being one of the things that actually transitions people from pure UX to product design, or even from like mid-level to senior and lead levels, which is when you can start saying, we made a decision because of user behavior, and the user behavior can be understood as this much revenue or this much good, bad stuff for the business.
Right.
So I mean, I don't buy it. I guess what I'm saying is I don't buy it. I think you do have a way to measure your impact.
Yeah, I do. I think I just have to like think about it or like go through my notes again.
Yeah. And this is something we'll work on. Maybe we'll even do this. Maybe we'll do this after hours. I actually have a document that I've been working on. I don't even know if Nate's seen it yet, actually. But it is an exploration of how to help designers do this, because it is really difficult to help designers with this. It's just not the way we tend to think. You know, we don't look at mathematics and be like, oh, like there's a problem in the world. What is the mathematics behind this problem? But that is how business people think all the time, right? You think about investments, you think about Bitcoin, you think about literally anything. It's always mathematical predictions. And as designers, we have to learn to speak a little bit of that language. Otherwise, design risks just becoming make something look pretty. We do want to make things look pretty, by the way, but we make things look pretty so people will choose us over other people, or so things work better, or so things work and look a certain way that that influences a certain outcome in the behavior of users or how products are perceived, which all of it is related to like mathematical predictions for what happens once users have it in their hand. I'm going to stop. I need some water. I'm sick, like I said. Cough, cough.
I don't know that I have anything more to add, really. I think the case study is great. I think there are areas of opportunity of growth that we've talked about, but beyond that, I think in regard to the goals of junior or mid-level, I think we've talked about all the good stuff.
Okay, let me do some quick execution items now that Nate has done strategy stuff. So something I'm noticing is that your text hierarchy does not have enough contrast between itself. When you talk about text, there's a couple rules you need to follow, which is 1, you're already following this rule. 2, it's about the width of that content, which I think I share this link almost every week. I haven't done it yet, so maybe I won't share it this week. We'll break tradition. Text should not be too wide on a page, though. You're following this rule excellently. This is not too wide. This is in a good viewing window. This follows that rule. However, text hierarchy also needs to have enough contrast between itself. As Nate pointed out, some of your text contrast is a little too small for it to be noticeable, right? Teens and young adults. To I helped, this is strong contrast. This teens and young adults isn't strong enough contrast comparative to the background that it's on. And especially for teens and young adults to be bigger or comparable to financial literacy. You see financial literacy is on a white background. It has a bar here. This feels emphasized here. As an H1 tag, though, this definitely has a lot of contrast. I'm just not seeing that contrast repeated here. So how might we's insight 002. I create a person named Nick. This ends up feeling so similar that the emphasis is lost. So I would recommend going in here, and especially like right here, like this, like setting up a goal for the user needs. The goal setup helped create user needs. Like the contrast between these two different text styles is so minute that is not enough contrast to be distinguishable, which hurts you when people are scanning. Even here, what's enough to early explorations? This uses a monotype, which is a good way to introduce numbers and stuff. I do think that is adequate contrast here, especially the zeros. But then here, not enough contrast. Some of this text in the images doesn't actually have enough contrast, even though it's themed very nicely, but it gets blurry. If you're having problems with your image rendering, I recommend you go to a site like this one. I'll paste this one in the chat. This is a converter to PNG or JPEG to web web.p. You can do pings as well. Basically, web.p is a optimized for web type of image that allows you to have higher resolution images at a smaller size that loads faster. And what you can do then is you can take a version of this image that is, if I open this image in a new tab, we'll try this one. You see that the image is quite small. It's already grainy, and therefore it doesn't scale well. WebP style would let you have a much bigger image at a higher resolution without the size problem.
Oh, okay, cool.
And that'll benefit your case study because it'll be able to read this text and it'll look a little bit less grainy. And I think that's it. Those are my high-level practical insights for implementation of your case study.
I think the only thing I would potentially add is similar to the last one, potentially adding your case studies to your nav bar, having a little case study page dedicated to it, just so it's not hidden.
Even if it is a button up here, this is what I do for mine. I don't have a dedicated page, but I have a spot on my nav bar that says my work. And you click it and it just scrolls you to my homepage where my work is located. So even if you have up here, you have like studies, work, reference, etc. And then you can click it and it just takes you to a dedicated spot on your homepage for it. That's also an option.
Okay. Well, thanks, guys. I appreciate the feedback.
Daniel, really appreciate the time. Check this out, Tim. It is 12:30. We've got 28 minutes left. And just like last week, we are ending the day with Casey, who's coming in at the tail end. And that does mean, however, that Fangela, who's on the list, as well as a couple other folk who have added theirs in the chat, we're not going to have time to get to you folks today. So sorry about that. Feel free to join us, of course, not next Friday because vacation days, but other Fridays. Stop by early, ideally 5 or 10 minutes early to make sure your name gets on the list. Just for context, li0ness, the very first one we reviewed today, pasted in their link 25 minutes early. So the demand is high for getting on the list early. Casey, welcome. Glad to talk with you again.
Hi, glad to be able to be here.
I'm trying to recall. Last week, I think we took a high-level, shallow view of lots of stuff without diving too deep into anything. Is that sounding right?
Yes. I believe we talked about my positioning with my title and how it was criminal to have no controls for my video.
The audio, that's right.
Fix that.
I've never seen Tim so angry.
I know. I think it was like a four-time count. So I got that fixed. But we didn't dive into any of the case studies. I will start by saying thank you for the initial feedback on how I can position myself better. There'll be changes coming, but for the sake of getting as much as I can for what I have right now, I figured try to keep it as it is, so I'm not making too many changes on the fly, so I can really understand how to move forward.
Totally get it. Yeah, that's fine. I'm trying to recall. I don't have my notes from last week. Give us some context again about who you are and what your goals are.
Yeah. So for everybody else, my name is Carla, and I've been designing for a few years. I started doing graphic design, and then while in school, I pivoted to product design because I felt like I enjoyed understanding the why and the whole reasoning behind how do we get from point A to point C and having the results. I feel like it's a magical process that at the end, it's really nice when you get the aha, and this is why we did all this. So yeah, I worked for a few companies in the past. My initial job was a VR company that was amazing. It was a small startup, but everything moved really fast. And then eventually I transitioned to working for an agency and then on my own to finally just freelancing. And now I'm finding at a place where I want to work with bigger teams because I would love to have that growth in the sense of like sharing feedback with someone else and bouncing off ideas. Yeah, so that's where I'm at, and I'm applying for jobs. And I should mention I got one interview yesterday, and I'm hoping it goes well. We'll see. I'm excited.
Nice. I'm recalling some of our conversation. I think we also talked about centralized, decentralized environments. You mentioned what's the title you're looking for, or the elevation rather? Senior, mid?
Mid.
Mid.
Mid for sure. But I think you said something really important early that you made me feel a little bit at ease. I did feel that there's a big saturation, and for a hot second, I did get a little bit disheartened by applying and almost feeling like I was getting like no one was answering me. I was like, what's wrong with me? But yeah, it sounds by what you said and what I've heard from other designers that it's a tough job market out there. But yes,
Tim,
I'm applying for mid to see where I land.
Tim, what's your take on the ratio of applications to interviews today?
So statistically, the numbers that I have seen, which don't mean it's this way for everyone, suggest that at least someone who is well positioned and is targeting companies broadly is looking at around 100 applications to a single interview. And so my recommendation to everyone is, however many interviews you want to have a week, make sure you're scaling on that 100 to 1 ratio at least. And if you are far below, like if you're at 200 applications, no interviews, then that's when you start to look at your funnel sequence. So we'll talk about it as a funnel, right? So there's like the top of funnel, and then there's the mid to end of funnel, right? So if you're applying to more than 100 jobs and you're not getting any outreaches or interview requests, that's when you need to start looking at your portfolio, your resume, your materials to see if they're good enough quality, maybe if the jobs you're applying to are incorrect. And if you are applying to less than 100 jobs, then I don't even think you have enough applications yet to really quantify your success yet, unless you're getting interviews within that sub 100 application cycle. Right, so you have to be pretty careful. You have to be pretty careful when you measure up against other people's numbers, though, because everyone's a little bit different. Everyone has a little bit different niche, and typically, the more you headhunt, the smaller ratio of applications you need to do. So people who are aiming for product designer have a lot of combatants, right? But if you're aiming for product designer at a banking app, right, then your combatant pool goes way down because now you can niche down and you can focus. And so there's a case for both sides, right? If you don't know who you want to work for, you're competing with a lot of people. If you know who you want to work for, you're competing with less people. And so your percentage is a little bit different. And some people have really good materials. And if you have really, really good materials, you can stand up above the crowd pretty easily. Does that answer your question, Nate?
That's amazing.
Sure does. All right. I'm diving into resume. I'm diving into case study number 1.
There's a couple of things that I'm noticing, and I'll let you know if they're the same things that you notice, which is there are buttons in places I don't expect there to be buttons. And that the style is a little bit, I'm going to call it muddy, where it is like it works, but at the same time, sometimes it's hard to digest the information because it's a little noisy or a little bit muddy. How do you feel about that, Nate?
I'm having similar thoughts here. I think so we don't often, I shouldn't say often, when we look at case studies, Tim and I have a goal of talking about what are the most important things we need to talk about today. There are a myriad of things we could talk about, but we want to give you the top 3 that are like most important, most actionable right now. Normally, those things don't include layout, but I think in your case, layout may be one of the more burdening portions of the case study. As Tim describes, there is a lot of, what's the way to describe this? a linear path is more effective at telling a story, and this doesn't follow a linear path. My eye is sort of all over the place. There are imageries and animations adjacent to the direction I want to go. And I think it's just a layout alteration that would make all the difference. Is that where your brain is at? Tim?
Well, I'm noticing things like you have a very small summary thing here. What is this 12? Is this size 12 over here? Ah, it's the wrong one. I always gotta get rid of that extension. The thing's so slow. 19, it's just a preset. I don't know what size this text is, but it looks really small. That heads your summary section, which is kind of wild that you have a summary right here. That's how you're positioning it. Things are very tight, right? A little bit cramped here. And then you even have like these nice little these like little drawn icons here. And I'm just not expecting these to be buttons. They look like they're integrated like little sketches. And you have these sketches. Yep. The sketches are buttons. And you have these sketches, and then you have like a GIF here, which is very sharp compared to these very round types of sketches. The spacing is a little sharp here, very squarish, very roundish over here. The spacing again being just pretty tight. Not everything is kind of aligned the same way. And there's so many. So the thing is like your assets, like if we talk about your asset wise, like having GIFs of landing pages and having the story start with like how it started, like I think is fine storytelling wise. You're taking a more conversational approach. That's fine. And also having this here, we talked about animation. Animation automatically just makes things better for some reason. But animation also takes a lot of attention and resourcing. And so there's so much attention and resourcing being called for here that I actually don't spend a lot of time digesting or comprehending what you're asking me to comprehend. And it becomes a little bit less impactful that way. And I think that kind of holds true like throughout the whole thing. It's just like the problem of slight inconsistencies of styling. Things are really close together. Some things are too small. The contrast isn't quite high enough between certain things. You have new fonts kind of being introduced, which increases that sense of inconsistency. The layout breaks itself a little bit. Just like these small things that kind of add up to make it feel more chaotic and noisy than it probably deserves to, and detracts from your overall messaging. Would you agree with any of that? Or maybe you will take us to the grave for that?
No, I agree. I definitely was. I'm newer to Framer, so I feel like there was a lot of things that I was learning while I was creating this. But the more I dive into it, I see how I could have cleaned things a little bit better and made my life easier. But I think I was just trying to see how I can fit all the information that I had. So yeah, I could take some time clean it up and creating that spacing better so it's not too crowded.
I'm actually watching Tim's looking at the mobile version here, and sure there are some layout hurdles with mobile, but I think in regard to the processing of information, the consumption of the story, I think mobile is doing a better job here. I think it's a cleaner, more linear flow to how one consumes.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, it kind of segments it a little bit. But I will say, having your title here, research discovery, core obstacles, buttons, research discovery, image, sub, headline, like this is, there's a lot happening right here.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot going on. So the presentation of information is probably hurting you, even like beyond just the content. We haven't even talked about the content yet. But if we assume your content's perfect, and it probably is, of course, right? Like all content is, that you probably wrote this all perfectly and don't need to rewrite anything at all, the way no one does in design, where we're constantly rewriting stuff. I think just improving this layout, kind of letting things have a little bit of a more, I don't want to say standard, but letting things have their own space and their own room to kind of take the stage and have one person on stage at a time will already elevate what you have. And hopefully it'll be good for you, because if you have good content, that everything taking the stage one at a time will make everything shine a little bit more.
Okay.
You know what's interesting, Tim? Overall, I like the content on this screen. It's just a little bit tricky to consume. So we've talked about layout, and I think that's going to take you a far distance. So I would argue that's priority 1. For me, priority 2 might be maximizing your headers for storyline content. If you want to see Tim angry here for a second, Tim, check out the little doohickey. Okay,
It's okay. You've got 2.
He's always angry. That's a secret.
Okay.
That's my secret. Yeah.
I'm looking at your titles, specifically the H2s or what should be H2s. How it started. Next section is research and discovery. Next section's ideation and design validation. These titles feel checkboxy in nature, as in I'm writing a case study and these are the sections I'm supposed to have on a case study. Therefore, those are the sections I have. The hurdle is every case study is different. Every story that you build is a little bit different. So I would love to see, with a goal of targeting hiring folk that are skimming through your case study, I would love to see those titles rely more heavily on storytelling. The objective there being, or rather the goal there being, if we only look at your titles, we should get an understanding of how you went about solving this particular problem.
Mm-hmm.
Let me pause there. Is that making sense? I'm happy to provide some bad examples if that's easier.
No, I think it makes sense. I definitely was trying to figure out a way to, I think when, having to take all of the things that we've done and, it's been months, years, having to break that down and trying to simplify it, sometimes that can be a hurdle. So I was trying to think of a way to make everything consistent, but I wasn't really funneling myself. So I think that is definitely the reason why also my titles are unaligned.
Mm.
But I can definitely position myself better with them instead of just how it started.
Yeah, okay. Tim, so I think the priorities now are layout number 1, titling, storytelling number 2. Would you throw in a third priority in there?
Did you use Framer CMS to build this?
Yeah.
I know that the CMS can have its own challenges because of how it's set up, and I'm highly sympathetic to you. I will just counsel you, though, that if Framer CMS is not letting you have the layout that you want, when you only have 3 or 4 case studies, sometimes it's best to abandon the ship. Now, Framer CMS does have its advantages, but just kind of watch out for if it locks you too much into one single template style for something people are going to be looking at for a very long time. That doesn't necessarily need to be at huge scale. CMS is not always the best choice. But that aside, I'd actually be looking for you to improve this intro section dramatically, because each intro section is a little summary. And it's not a very impactful or high priority summary, especially when it's such a tiny little summary title here. It's so small. It's just little teeny. But kind of improving this to make sure you're one, not selling a platform. You're not here to sell Offer One. You are here to sell KC. And KC is the greatest solo product designer of all time between 2021 and 2022. And when I read this summary, I should kind of get the sense of there was a client, KC saw the problem or at least addressed their problem and was the magic bullet that fixed everything. And by the way, here's what happened after KC did this. And so I'm really looking for these summaries to be more powerful. Just one, outlining a little bit of your problem space, outlining your approach, and outlining your impact, and really packaging that in such a way that I can, if I only get the chance to read the summary, then I have come away from your website and I still want to hire you.
Okay. So talk about more of what I've done versus what the company was, because I feel like I'm highlighting more the company.
Yeah, yeah. Especially, I think it's okay if you want to talk about the company, like in this how it started section. Like you give a little bit of
Mhm.
context. You're like VR's on chart, which it really was, and a lot of people were working in this VR space in 2016. That's actually the first time I ever saw like a VR arcade. Was I think 2017.
Mhm.
So like it's cool to have been there, and to kind of give that context, right? But you should use this to establish a problem and approach effectively, so that I want to read this. We talk about the Jolt, Journey, Jackpot, which I mentioned kind of previously, like our 3 J's, right? And so
Mhm.
you should try to jolt me and jackpot me a little bit up here. So I want to look at the story. Give me just a little bit of like, there was a critical error and I was the solution for that problem. And I'm actually not sure what the problem is across this case study yet. I haven't looked at it in depth enough to kind of qualify it.
Oh,
But it
okay.
looks like it might have been a landing page problem or like a lead funnel problem.
That is good to hear that you don't see that because it's definitely not what I want to give off. I was definitely trying to show that I, redesigned their website, and their app as well, to make it to be modern and clean, but also help them with the process of streamlining the workflow because it was very crowded and I had to clean it up a lot more, which is ironic that I'm saying this as I literally just threw all my design work on my portfolio.
Yeah. Anytime you have to explain it, that's how you know you're doing a good job, right? Is when you have to re-explain things. I will say, if you're saying right here, right, you have the statement here. I brought refresh to the landing page and I redesigned the brand, right? And you're saying the problem was it lacked hierarchy, it lacked contrast, and it was jargon heavy. These are problems we know as designers. What do you think the business version of this problem was, though?
They weren't getting enough. They weren't getting enough agents to be able to get their app to produce the flow of purchasing, home selling, and buying.
I think that's a great requalifying of it. So I would even reframe this when you're in your summary section, for example. Reframing this problem not as just design terms, but also being like, they were struggling with lead acquisition. Is what it sounds like, right?
Yeah.
Attracting their, I guess, top of funnel problems. However you want to phrase that, top of funnel. You could talk about this being like, they weren't competitive enough in the SEO landscape, which led to loss of, however much money you think that they were losing because of this kind of funnel, and saying like they were spending an amount on their website that did nothing, right? And so basically helping them transform an investment into something that's actually making them money. And this is the good stuff. You talk about this. This really anchors your work when you kind of phrase it in these big. I can spell. I promise I can spell, guys. When you frame it with this kind of stuff, this helps people understand that the project was real. When you say like, "Hey, this small medium business I worked for was struggling with their lead acquisition." And when I did their redesign for them, they had like a 52% increase in like their presence and their impressions, which would be associated with, conservatively, right? You can say like $1 million of revenue across the whole year. I don't know, whatever this company would be doing though, right? Where you can make that connection. And then you're like justifying the budget for it. And then this helps other people who are looking at you who might be potential clients one day. And they're like, oh yeah, our website's not really doing much work for us either. And it sounds like if we hired this person, their redesign work could bring us another $500K a year in our own sales because of our business, like comparative needs to them, right? And then it becomes a lot easier for people to see, and you're selling yourself based on the results that you provided to others. So that becomes, I think it's more powerful storytelling. So that's the kind of stuff I'm looking for, especially in your summary section. And also here and your summary section, though, where you kind of outline this impact in a way that makes sense to the people who are reading your page.
Okay. I think in my head, I thought it would make sense to like put it more towards the end, but maybe show a little more concise summary of the impact early on, and then be able to highlight the details of the outcomes at the end. Is that what I'm hearing?
So you'll want both, right? You definitely do want to include outcomes at the end. You gotta sandwich it, right? It's a sandwich though. And a sandwich that has no top is not really that great of a sandwich. And a sandwich that has no bottom is also horrible. That's a sandwich, right? Because everything falls out the bottom. So you'll need both. People don't read. We learn this about humans. We just don't read things. We scan. And so if you make the very first thing, all the stuff that's important about selling me what I did, the very short version, the TLDR, you have a powerful anchor for even if I just look at this, because chances are as soon as someone discovers this button that lets them go from, 1, 2, 3, they might look at these really quickly, like, oh yeah, Zeality, cool, summary, how it started, and then they might move on. And if you put all the good stuff up here at the top, they at least get that much. And then of course you reward them at the very end by talking about it in more detail.
Okay.
I love everything Tim's described so far. The paragraph that Tim had written, my instinct would be to keep that paragraph, rephrase it, of course, but delete everything above it. That's kind of the most important thing to start with.
Okay. Any thoughts? I know we mentioned that I made my little buttons that look like sketches, and you didn't realize there were buttons to different sections. Do we think they're too distracting and maybe I should get them out of the way and just leave it as a one-page scroll, or maybe give more on top of navigation for that? Like label it what it is.
I say get rid of them. It's sort of like, what's the value in reading a story and starting on chapter 4? I don't think they provide any value for you whatsoever.
Okay.
It's also because there's not really any way to know what happens, right? This is the thing we call about signifiers, right? Is that there's nothing that signifies to me what happens when I use one of these. There's nothing that will inform me of what happens. And the chances that I might click something and go somewhere that you didn't want me to go. We talk about this being like a classic problem of like, don't put buttons on a website on someone's homepage that you don't want users to actually take, right? You don't give them the tools to do something that's bad. And if they're here, maybe you should give them, maybe if you put labels on here, that'll help a little bit too. Or maybe if you even do better affordances that tell someone that there's a button here rather than just this like little mouse hover icon, which I think is the default because it has the button class in Framer.
Yeah.
There could be some ways to maybe improve this. It's not a bad idea to have this kind of thing, but for it to be anchored into the section and then to scroll away and to kind of show up again in different formats is a little irregular. And the style of it, which is so charming. This on its own, very charming, right? But you compare this style to this line here. You compare this style to this like these sharp corners with the shadow here. You compare this style to the core obstacles here. You compare it to some of the visuals that are being shown in here. It just starts to feel very out of place, where either your images are wrong, either this box is a little bit wrong, or these icons are a little bit out of place. And so you may need to just kind of be aware of your competing styles.
Tim, I'm looking at the clock. In regard to providing like the first steps of value of things Carla could work on, I don't have anything else to add. How you feeling?
I still feel sick, but for Carla, I feel pretty good. I feel like that's a good place to be.
Carla, how you feeling? You feel like you've got some actionables?
Yeah, no, I think I definitely did. I think I was looking at my storytelling of what I've done in a different view. So I'm glad that you were able to give that feedback where it's like, okay, you know, like I need to stop selling the companies and really just focus on the outcomes that I provided. So another company or hiring person can see what I've achieved and how I've been able to apply my thought process through those. So I think I need to just do some restructuring on language and definitely on styling. Take my time on it, maybe cleaning it up and creating more space. So I'm able to. I'm kind of scared that it's going to get really lengthy and I might have to cut things out too.
I think a lengthy case study would be a great problem to have.
Okay.
There are some people I recommend starting small and building up. But if you have too many materials and you condense it, that's often a better place to be. You also just have to remember that, you know, what is the outcome you want users to do when they look at a homepage or this page? Which I think the outcome is you want them to trust you enough to hire you. And there's two different ways to do this, right? So a SaaS website puts all their information online. They have tons of documentation because when you sign up, it's all online, right? So they have to convince you all the problems. I don't think they can sign up for you online. I could be wrong, right? But they still have to talk to you. They still have to work with you. And I think in that case, it's okay to focus your thing on like, I don't need to answer every single question. I just need to prove that I am worth them talking to. Okay. And that is by selling myself in as much as like someone who's thoughtful. And when I talk to them next, I can get into more of the details here. I can talk about each of these in greater depth.
Okay.
Carla, appreciate you hanging out with us today. And welcome back. Would love to see you again. If you end up working on your case study, would love to see you back in a couple of weeks from now so we can take a look at revisions.
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you. Thank you for taking your time and, helping me with how I can restructure my layout and reformat also the language around it.
Yeah, love talking about this stuff. Tim, look at the clock. We are officially in after hours time. Should we, for those folks still on the call, appreciate hanging out with us today. Tim and I are going to hang out for a little bit. We do portfolio resume reviews every Friday, with the exception of next Friday because Thanksgiving holiday stuff. Fridays from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Everything is being recorded and live streamed on the YouTubes. I can add a link to the chat here. I think those are all the things.
I think those are all the things as well. Thanks, everyone.